On the eve of the Ji ceremony, the Jiang family's gate is hung with countless bright red lanterns. A scene of joy. The whole capital knows that Jiang Daren's most beloved concubine daughter, Jiang Xuerong, which is me, will tomorrow attend the grand and prestigious Ji ceremony. The moon climbs the branches, and elder sister Jiang Yufu arrives at my courtyard, carrying a lunchbox. Sis specially brought your favorite peach blossom wine to celebrate you. Elder sister pinched the tip of my nose as usual, her face full of affection. I also, as before, wrap her arm around mine to act spoiled. Sister loves me the most. After the dishes were set on the table, Jiang Yufu instructed the female maid in my room. Yener, Suelua, you go to my courtyard and bring back the wedding gift I prepared for Xuerong. She also sent away the other attendants. Today I will personally serve the two young ladies. I sat at the table, stuffing myself with glutinous rice and lotus root, watching her busy inside and out. In just 2 or 3 cups of wine, Yener and Suelua still hadn't returned. I supported my forehead, feeling somewhat unwell. Older sister, this wine seems off. So bitter. I haven't drunk much yet, I feel giddy. A hint of joy flashed in Jiang Yufu's eyes. Then she helped me pour another cup. My silly little sister, you are still young and don't understand the myriad tastes of life. You can't resist the word bitter. I sneered inwardly. How could I not understand? In the last life, I lived through such bitter days. So in this life, I will also let you taste this bitterness. I counted the time roughly and stood up unsteadily. I'll go take a look at why those 2 girls haven't returned yet. They're sure to be taking the opportunity to slack off. Jiang Yufu, seeing this, immediately came to help me, eyes full of a victorious smile. But before she could reach my side, her body went soft and collapsed. I put away the confusion in my eyes, smiled, and sat down. Looking down from above at her, Anjia deliberately set this trap. So tonight please enjoy it properly and don't waste the arrangement and the thoughts behind it. Jiang Yufu's face was all panic. She clutched her chest as if trying to cry out for help, but she could no longer make a sound. Soon, she fell into a deep sleep. Yener and Suelua pushed the door open and entered, then together lifted her onto the bed and removed her clothes. The 3 of us hid in the warm parlor, waiting quietly for them to arrive. Yener and Suelua pushed the door open and, together, lift her onto the bed, stripping her clothes off. The 3 of us hide in the warm alcove, quietly waiting for someone to arrive. Jiang Yufu never expected that I would be reborn to this morning. I had prepared the antidote in advance, and ate it with Yener and Suelua, and I also prepared a sleep-inducing drug for Jiang Yufu. In the past life, Yener and Suelua were drugged and then beaten to death the next day by their father for the crime of being evil servants. In this life, after they were locked in the storeroom, they seized the opportunity to escape. The Jiang family estate was bustling, and no one noticed the abnormality in my courtyard. Soon after, there was a soft knock at the door, and the door was pushed open. I heard someone say, "Please, Your Highness, enjoy yourself." I recognized that voice. It was the servant by my father's side. The man known as the Prince is the Empress Dowager's most beloved youngest son, Qin Mu, and also the most notoriously wicked tyrant in the capital. The room was pitch black. Qin Mu didn't realize the person on the bed wasn't me. He deftly took off his clothes, leaped onto the bed, and slipped into the velvet blanket wrapped around Jiang Yufu. "Little beauty, I have missed you to death. Today I've finally fallen into your hands, and I'll teach you to enjoy myself properly. You usually carry the air of a noble lady, but you're just a pampered daughter. Yet spending 200,000 taels to obtain you was worth it." These filthy words flood into my ears, and within my heart a flame seems to burn me with pain. In my previous life, I thought it was only Jiang Yufu who harmed me. After she drugged me, Qin Mu tainted me. The next day, I was caught red-handed in this filthy affair, and my father, furious, sent me to the royal residence and expelled me from the house. I never understood why my father wouldn't listen to my explanations or why he never came to see me. Later I understood. This plot to harm me was planned by Jiang Yufu, and my father was bought with 200,000 taels of silver. I was thinking about my last life, when suddenly my hands felt wet and damp. with teardrops falling onto them. Yennefer cried. She felt sorry for me. Suelua tightly covered my ears, not letting me hear. I gently squeezed the hands of the two of them, signaling that I was all right. Every word Jinmu said felt like a knife, slicing through my heart, blood dripping in a pattering flow, seeping into my vital organs, hurting me so much I could barely breathe. Finally, after he finished and fell into a heavy sleep, Yennefer, and Chui Luo slipped out of the back window, using the night to leave the residence. We headed toward the Zhou residence all the way. Zhou Moru, the legitimate daughter of the Zhou family, is my confidant and the only person I can currently trust. When I arrived at Zhou Mansion and explained what happened tonight, Moru was so furious that she smashed 2 jade bamboo stands. So shameless. So utterly shameless. How could there be a father who sells his daughter like that and an older sister who harms her younger sister? She has always treated you so well, and it was all feigned. Yes. How could there be a father who sells his daughter? In the previous life, Qin Mu wanted me to become a concubine. My father knew I would never agree to it even if I died, but he cared very much about the 20,000 taels Qin Mu offered. So when Jiang Yufu proposed drugging me and cooking the rice to make the fling permanent, he did not oppose. If I cared about face and chose to surrender myself in despair, I would be as he wished. If I did not comply, he would sever relations with me and still gain a reputation for strictly governing the house. Without support from my maternal family, I would be Qin Mu's captive, no longer able to resist him. This idea, Qin Mu was also willing to agree with. After all, his reputation could hardly get any worse. He doesn't care at all. He only wants to obtain me. Then, a pot of peach blossom wine, the father got the money. Elder sister swept away the rival. The two people I trust most joined forces to push me into a purgatory of the mortal world. Miss, when you're sad, just cry. Chui Luo, seeing I remained silent, grasped my hand and spoke with a choked voice. Those words are utterly filthy. Fortunately, our young lady is smart and anticipated this, prepared an antidote in advance, and thus preserved our innocence. I looked at Chui Luo, a surge of sadness in my heart. My silly little sister was still distressed by hearing those lewd words for my sake, unaware that in the 2 years at the Wangfu in my previous life, these were all ordinary matters to me. I gently wiped away the tears that had fallen from Chui Luo's eyes. It's nothing. Isn't your sister sitting here nicely? If others hurt us, we'll hit back. Mo Ru nodded. All right. Tell me how to hit back. With knives, spears, or sticks. I'll beat him until you're appeased. As he spoke, he casually picked up a small dagger nearby and began to examine it. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Of course I won't beat him in public. I will make him wish for death. Okay, all right. By the way, have you told Song Qi'er? With his support, your father might be more lenient toward you. I shook my head. Now isn't the time to find him yet. In a previous life, after I was driven out of the family, I found a way to escape the Mo Prince House's supervision and went to find Song Qi'er. But the Song Mansion's gates were tightly shut. No matter how I knocked, they wouldn't open. It wasn't until evening that the housekeeper opened the door to deliver a message. Our young master is a favorite before His Majesty, destined to ascend to a high official position. Now the whole capital knows about your scandalous conduct. Since you are so wanton, your body is already dirty and unworthy of him. Do not come here again. I held back tears all day, but in the end I couldn't stop them from falling. That person from my childhood who sent me white sugar figurines and said that no matter how many hardships I would marry him when I grew up. The one who promised to protect me for a lifetime and come to propose after I turned 16, he doesn't believe me. He thinks I'm dirty, but I'm not dirty. I'm clean, with a clear conscience. The dirty thing is the person who harmed me. Why should I, a victim, become the target of 1,000 pointing fingers? After I left the Song household, I saw Qin Mu standing at the street corner. He sneered, Jiangsu heir, where else can you run to? Since then, I have never seen Song Chunyan again. The next morning, I got into the Jiang family's carriage with Mo Ru and headed to the Jiang residence. The Jiang residence was brightly lit and bustling with excitement. I sat in the carriage, waiting for the right moment. But as the ceremonial time approached, I still hadn't appeared. Father grew a bit anxious. "You Fu, hurry and check on your sister. It's all my fault for spoiling this child in ordinary days. Today she's slept in again." But after he spoke, he realized Jiang Yufu was not there. Last night, Jiang Yufu didn't return, and no one in her courtyard reported in. This was something I had foreseen from the start. Jiang Yufu's temper was haughty, and she often scolded the servants. Even her personal maid was docked pay and made to kneel in punishment. Therefore, even if she hadn't come back for a night, the servants all took the opportunity to act freely, with no one watching over her. "Come on, let's go together and wake this lazy girl up." Mo Ru smiled as she called the others. She has taken on the role of Jiang Yufu in this life. When the door was pushed open in front of everyone, what they saw was a cluttered room and a man on the bed snoring like thunder. Father trembled with anger and shouted, "Jiang Xuerong, what are you doing to take my life?" I neatly dressed, poked out from behind my father. Father called me. "Your daughter missed Anyang last night, returned to her courtyard, drank a little wine, and fell asleep. Today I woke late. It's my fault. Please punish me." I lowered my head, my face full of guilt, acting as if I had done something wrong. But everyone understands that now. The more serious question is, who is the woman lying on my bed with her legs naked? This racket has woke the woman in bed. She rubs her eyes and sits up, and after seeing the situation in the room clearly, she screams in alarm. Her father is equally astonished. I flop down on the floor, tears falling in big drops. "You, elder sister, how could you? Elder sister, how can you do such a shameless thing, leaving me with no face to live in this world in the future?" After crying a couple of times, I rush toward the door pillar on the side and crash into it. But Mo Ru pulls me back. "You are a clean and pure person. If you die for such a slut, wouldn't that be a waste? The one who brings disgrace to the Jiang family is her, not you." Father's face changes color repeatedly when he hears this. Jiang Yufu was dumbfounded. This was the act she had prepared, but I had performed it. Qin Mu, who had slept enough on the side, woke up, after seeing that the person on the bed was Jiang Yufu. His face turned grim, and he stood up to leave. Father blocked him. "Prince, my daughter's innocence has been ruined by you. You cannot just walk away like this." Qin Mu sneered twice. "Although she invited me here, I am willing to take responsibility. I've heard that the Jiang family's eldest daughter has the most moving singing voice, and the prince's residence is short of a songstress, so I shall send her over." With that, he shook off his father, strode away. The father stood rigid in place, all his plans upended. Around him, relatives and friends began to murmur, "The Jiang family has raised such a daughter. What a pity for decades of reputation." The father, who had spent half his life chasing fame and social standing, valued this face the most. So he turned to look at Jiang Yufu, who was crying miserably, and ordered grimly, "Go fetch me a rope, to strangle this beast." Jiang Yufu screamed, clothes disheveled, leaping onto the bed. "Father, your daughter was harmed by that Jiang Xierong." Before she could finish speaking, she was interrupted by a firm slap from her father. "Still talking nonsense? Shut her up. From now on, our Jiang family will have no daughter as shameless as you. Tie her up and throw her out. From now on, she and the Jiang estate are cut off for good." After speaking, the father clutched his chest in pain and fainted away. I watched the scene, extremely satisfied. The ending of this passage is the same as in the previous life. The difference is that Jiang Yufu and I have swapped positions. I looked at the guests with a tremor of apology. "There is something going on at the mansion today. Please bear with us." After dismissing the guests, I looked at Jiang Yufu still struggling and spoke sternly to the housekeeper. "Didn't you hear your father's orders?" Jiang Yufu, bound hand and foot, was brought out from the back door, placed on a carriage, and taken to a secluded alley. As agreed, soon the people from the Wang residence would come. It's just that this time a different person is involved, so Qin Mu may still not come. Mo Ru sat with me in the floral hall, calming me with tea. "Shui Rong, do you know Qin Mu? Just now he seemed to say something to you." I shook my head, a look of lingering fear on my face. How dare I attract someone as foul as him? But actually I heard clearly what he said as he passed by me. He said, "I will get you sooner or later." I endured again and again, not driving the short blade in my hand into his body. This was my plan for today. If my father does not punish Jiang Yufu, I will feign a suicide to use a blade. By the way, you said there was still a scene, Mo Ru asked. I smiled and looked outside the door. Don't rush. It's almost time. Qin Mujue would not let it go easily. With his temper, he would never let himself suffer. In a moment, the guards of the Wangfu came to see my father. The butler looked troubled at me, and I smiled and instructed, "Just fetch him. Even if he's dizzy, bring him here." I knew my father pretended to be dizzy, to show the audience that the virtuous old father was angered by his daughter, so as to protect his reputation. After seeing the people from Mu Mansion, the father kept coughing, but the other party did not care about his frailty, and, seated in the main seat, got straight to the point. "The prince says the Jiang family will not handle this, and you slept with the wrong person. That 200,000 taels. Return the Jiang family's original amount. As for the mental strain, you are generous, so I will not hold it against you. Moreover, the Jiang family sent dirty things over. If the adults miss their daughter, then annually gift 10,000 taels of silver to the prince, and he will spare her life. If she dies, the prince will expose all dealings with the adults. As for reputation, the prince has never cared about such things." The resentment in his eyes was wrapped in venom, yet he dared not resist. He glanced at me and Mo Ru, and told me to go back to the yard. But I know he can't keep his money. He might even have to borrow to make ends meet. In less than the time it takes for a joss stick to burn, the guard left with the silver note. The butler hurriedly reported, "Master has fainted, vomiting fresh blood. This time I'm seriously dizzy, with a head like spinning. After all, I've lost my daughter and lost a soldier." I sit by the window, listlessly cutting paper windows with my scissors. What should we do then? Father is dizzy. Calling for a physician is the only way. Today is my coming of age. I had already decided to go burn incense and pray. The time cannot be wasted. Here, you go report to the madam for me, and tell her about sister's matter while you're at it. Lady Zhao, the mistress of the Jiang family, is Jiang Yufu's biological mother. In the 3rd year after we moved to the capital, father, in order to win over the powerful, forced Lady Zhao, who was not skilled in horseback riding, and the ladies of nobility to play polo. The mistress fell from the horse, injured her leg, and since then seldom went out to handle affairs. I once thought she, too, was a pitiful soul persecuted by father. But later, when I was tormented at the Wang residence, she came to the Wang residence with a lame foot specifically to see me. Back then the old master doted on your mother, and that jade-mouthed manipulator claimed she was beautiful and captivating. But now, she lies in the underworld. Her daughter is as lowly as hers, a concubine, and my daughter married a prize-winning official. People, in the end, only those who stay alive can be considered winners. But, mistress, it's all karma and retribution. Today I will let you see that being alive does not necessarily mean you'll be a winner." The butler stared, unable to stop me, and sighed as he went to find the mistress. Mo Ru sat by the Kong, clapping and exclaiming, "Shui Rong, you did it brilliantly. We must deal with these people like this." I looked at the dove and mandarin duck window lattices I had cut, and whispered, "Is this enough?" It's far from enough. This is just the beginning. Compared to the suffering I endured in my previous life, this is far from enough. In my previous life, after I was branded as shameless, my father cut off all relations with me. Everyone praised the Jiang family as pure and spotless, yet unaware that the Jiang mansion was the dirtiest, most rotten place. Ever since I was brought into the palace, life has been worse than death. Because I refused to submit, I was beaten until my body was covered in injuries, wounds salted with coarse salt. Qin Mu made me kneel in the courtyard on cold winter nights, pouring basin after basin of cold water over my head. The water dissolved the salt. The pain made me sweat all over, and the cold made me tremble uncontrollably. After every basin of water was poured, he asked again, "Are you willing to serve this king?" I shook my head, and another basin of water came. This went on until I fainted. Sometimes he was in a good mood and let me stand by while he and other women were intimate. I bowed my head and refused to look, and he would twist my chin and curse me. You wench! Even though I spent 200,000 liang of gold, I cannot buy you even a single nod. When I remained silent, one of his men forcefully dislocated my jaw. Seeing that I could not close my mouth, he finally returned to the bed in satisfaction. I was tormented by him for a full 2 years. In these 2 years, Jiang Yufu married off to the Gongju, the top scholar official's daughter. My father was promoted, and even the Zhao family dared to go out limping. But none of that concerns me anymore. On a snowy winter day, Qin Mu came into my room and dragged me off the bed with a single motion. This king asks one last time, "Are you willing?" I spit a mouthful of blood onto his face. He was furious and threw me to the ground with a heavy thud. I felt my internal organs tremble and go numb. My chest so tight I could hardly breathe. Take her away and dispose of her. I was left on a mass grave, surrounded by decaying corpses and white bones. I forced myself to endure the nausea and slowly crawled up from the bottom of the pit. I will seek revenge, for my Yener and Shui Luo, for myself, for the trust that was betrayed. In the prince's mansion I endured such torture, and I kept forcing myself to stay awake. I must stay alive to avenge myself. My mother, on her deathbed, held my hand and urged me, "As long as you're alive, there's hope." She said she would never be able to leave the Jiang family's mansion in this life, but she hoped I could go out and live for herself. If you find a good husband and have a stable life, that would be wonderful. But if you go up the mountain to be a concubine, or down into the water to be a mistress, that's fine too, as long as you are comfortable. If I'm below, I'll rest easy. Just one thing, promise me you will never be a concubine. Living without dignity and without honor would grieve me from the underworld. But mother, I was still sold by my father to be a concubine. He is my own father. He once held me, cajoled me, fed me meat jerky, and caught sparrows for me. On snowy days he happily held me up high. Shui Rong, look, it's snowing. On the day you were born, there was such heavy snow as well, and you were as crystal and pure as a snow doll. I named you Shui Rong, Lotus in the snow. Come, let daddy take Shui Rong to build a snowman. There were only me and sister Ajia as his 2 daughters, one legitimate and one quartz, a pair of equally fine flowers. I will forever remember that day, amidst the fluttering snow, when father held me and spun me around, and I was so happy as if the whole world belonged to me. But why did everything end up like this? It seems that since my father was promoted and we moved to the capital, everything changed. Father grew more and more addicted to power and wealth. At first I thought he was blinded by the temptations of the bustling capital, but later I understood that he had desired all of this from the start. It was just that once in the capital, his deepest desires and greed could not be restrained and began to surface uncontrollably. If I can survive, I will surely tear off my father's hypocritical mask and let the world see his true face. I want Jiang Yufu to relive all the suffering I have endured, but I am really so tired. The night grew deeper, and my body had already lost consciousness. I have bled so much. I'm too weak to crawl another step. I lay by the edge of the pit, and in the vast, mesmerizing snow I saw a white blur rushing toward me, seemingly a horse, yet also perhaps a person. I have no strength left to discern it. I finally looked up and saw the snowflakes settling on my sleeve, just like the window lattice carving Song Chenian cut for me back then. I recalled hearing this morning from the palace servants that Song Chenian had become the youngest concurrent Grand Academician in this dynasty, a truly red-hot celebrity. Surely someone who can enter the cabinet and become prime minister. He must be lucky not to have dragged me down with him. My eyelids grew heavier and heavier, unable to hold on any longer. Mother, I'm sorry. I became a concubine, and I did not live a good life. Before closing my eyes, that white orb seemed to rush to my side. I just didn't know anything anymore. I was born when the snow was heavy, and I died when the snow was heavy as well. But perhaps heaven pitied me and granted me rebirth. Aren't we going to go burn incense? Mo Ru said after finishing a fragrant pear, and pulled me to my feet. I tucked that pair of mandarin duck window flowers between the pages of a book. Sure, I'll go find Song Chunyan to go with me. He said that on the day of the hairpin, coming of age, he would give me a great gift. Today he must have come back. I hate his faithlessness to the depths of my heart, but I must go find him. Only he can deter Qin Mu and stop him from scheming against me. Although he was an illegitimate son in the early Song dynasty, he was quick-witted. The emperor prized his talents, and from childhood he could freely enter and exit the palace, studying alongside the princes. At 10, he had already helped the emperor solve several major governance problems, and he was universally recognized as a future prime minister. Because the emperor sheltered him, even Qin Mu had to show him a little respect. So I must find him and make good use of him to help me handle matters. This time, the Song household's gate opened quickly. Miss Jiang will first go to the side hall for tea. I suppose the young master will be home soon as well. Where did he go? The Hunan floods are severe. The prince was summoned to the palace for a discussion last night, and he hasn't returned yet. I nodded. Then I'll come again this afternoon. Mo Ru and I spent half a day wandering on the mountain, but my thoughts kept drifting elsewhere. Song Chunai is not at the residence. When he returns and hears about the Jiang family's situation, what will he do? Will he, as before, wear a mask of hypocritical gentleness and continue to perform for me? Or, like in the previous life, curse me for bad family conduct, which would drag him down and sever contact with me? Then I'd rather he act the part first. When I returned to the city, the sun had just set. The time was almost the same as in my previous life. I knocked on Song Mansion's door again. The butler looked apologetic. Master isn't back yet. I froze in place. The timeline in Song Chunyan's era should be no different from my previous life. At this time, if he wasn't at home, who was it that delivered messages to me and insisted on cutting ties with me? While I was lost in thought, someone tugged at my sleeve. He stepped down from the cart in the early years of the dynasty and hurried toward me, and every step made me tense and heartache. We hadn't seen each other for 2 years, but he was still the same as before, wearing a white robe and graceful as ever. The evening breeze lifted the hem of his clothes, reminding me of the day I fell for him, the same kind of evening, when the usually steady him climbed a tree and helped me pluck down the kite. But his temperament seemed, if anything, less steady than in the past life. He once liked me and privately pledged a lifetime with me. Yet in the presence of others he never showed his emotions, neither revealing nor hiding anything. He said, those who openly show joy and anger are rarely able to endure beside the emperor. Therefore, Jian Yufu never knew about me and him, until the time Song Chunyan sent me a jade bangle and Jian Yufu saw it, learning that the person he liked was me. After that, she began to scheme against me. But today, I saw panic on his face. When he came to my side, he suddenly pulled me into his arms, one hand holding my waist, the other gently stroking my hair. Shui Rong, it's so good that you're here. Song Chunyan's husky voice thumped in my ear, and I momentarily even wanted to forgive him. But I soon sobered, smiling. So you know my family's matters. You're worried about me. He nodded slightly, a trace of compunction in his eyes. I stayed overnight in the palace last night, and I woke up early thinking of your birthday. But His Majesty would not let me go. It was my fault. If I had gone to Jiangfu earlier today, you wouldn't have to face all of this alone on your birthday. The concern in his eyes is so genuine. I secretly admired him, afraid that even the best opera troupe on Nanjie Street might not be able to outperform him. I pretended to look frightened, but Qin Mu's target seems to be me. If he can't have me, he will definitely find another way. In the early years of the Song dynasty, he spoke without hesitation. I will go to Jiangfu tomorrow to propose a marriage. As long as we seal the engagement, he won't dare to misbehave. I asked again, will you still marry me? No matter that I have such a sister. Song Chunyan's voice was soft. Of course not. She is she. You are you. And if today the person who is defiled is me, would you still marry me? I asked this question, a pain point I have always hated to touch. Song Chunyan suddenly turned my shoulders, his expression solemn. Yes, I know who you are in my heart, and I will certainly not be swayed by rumors. In my eyes, you are the cleanest person. The knife didn't pierce my own body, And that mouth of hers could obviously spout nonsense. Aren't you afraid I'll ruin your future? I continued to ask. Song Chenian suddenly laughed. Not afraid. If your majesty won't let me hold office because of this, then I'll take you traveling across mountains and waters, living a happy life. On the day of my coming of age, Song Chenian performed a few plays, all very brilliant, telling many lies. But it doesn't matter. I already know the true answer. That night I slept very poorly. I used to never sleep soundly in the prince's mansion, which now makes it hard for me to fall asleep with my eyes closed. I only fell asleep when dawn was near, and I slept less than half an hour before Yana woke me. Big Miss has returned. She is in the flower hall crying with Madam. When I hurried to the flower hall, Jiang Yufu was crying with red eyes. Zhao Shi was wiping away her tears while holding her hand, and my father sat in the main seat, expressionless, lost in thought. I laughed aloud. Sister hasn't congratulated elder sister on finding a lover and becoming bound to him yet. Today I specially prepared a congratulatory gift for elder sister. Saying this, I had Chui Luo present a wooden box, inside which lay a naively charming porcelain doll. This is a lucky baby I went to Qingyin Temple to ask for yesterday for elder sister. It can bless a woman to bear a noble son early, if elder sister wins the prince's favor, and in the future if you can have another child. Even if I am a concubine, I can still have a sense of security. I spoke with a sharp edge, aiming directly at Jiang Yufu and Zhao's lungs. Jiang Yufu steamed with anger, nearly unable to catch her breath. She snatched the porcelain doll and smashed it to the ground, crying out loud, "Father, you must stand up for your daughter." Father's expression eased. After all, Jiang Yufu getting into the royal residence also had his part in it. Just as father was about to speak, the butler arrived with news. The Song estate sent a letter, asking for marriage proposals. I smiled and looked at Jiang Yufu. Today really is a double happiness. My sister returns a favor, and I will be betrothed. This sentence is extremely lethal to Jiang Yufu. A concubine. Where would there be a return ceremony? She must have reached some agreement with Qin Mu. Coming back to harm me is all. Even more hurtful is that Song Chenian intends to marry me, an arranged betrothal. 3 letters and 6 notices. A proper nuptial. Jiang Yufu let out a screech, her voice sharp as a trapped wild beast. Only at the end of her road, unable to bear children. First, take the eldest miss away. Shui Rong. You also go behind the screen and wait there. I'll go greet the people from Song household. Father ordered anxiously. At this moment, he did not want Jiang Yufu, who had just lost someone yesterday, to ruin his good fortune. Father knew very well that Qin Mu had already fallen out of favor. If he could now cling to Song Chenian, having another backer in the future would naturally be a good thing. Moreover, Song Chenian's reputation was well known. To still come proposing marriage after yesterday's incident that damaged the family's reputation would undoubtedly be lending Jiang family a base. Father naturally liked it very much. I have never seen such a diligent father. He has always smiled at the Song family. Exceedingly polite, afraid that if they are even a little unhappy, he would not speak of this betrothal any longer. I was sitting behind the screen watching the early Song dynasty. His eyes were full of smiles, as if sincere. The betrothal was set for the 8th day of the 10th month. 2 months later, my father feared further changes and wanted it as soon as possible. Before leaving that day, Song Chenian gave me a book. I've already cut out these lattice windows. Now I just hope we can soon cut the candlelight together at the western window with you. The paper cutting wedged in the book is a pair of twin blossoms, a pair of peony blossoms, sandwiched on the page that says, "Holding your hand, we grow old together." A little of the hatred in my heart seemed to dissipate. In the early years of the Song dynasty, how did you always manage to make my heart flutter for you? Not long after, the whole capital knew about my engagement to Song Chuyen. Qin Mu never came to bother me again. That day, Jiang Yufu came home, indeed sent by him to gather information. After learning that I was engaged, I heard that Jiang Yufu was hanged from a beam and beaten by Qin Mu that very night. The Zhao family cried 5 times, fainted 3 times, pulling at their father's sleeve, begging him to go fetch Jiang Yufu back. Father fell quiet for a long time, then asked me, Does Song Chuyen have any way to fetch your elder sister out of the manor? She is wayward and could bring dishonor to the family name. But after all, she is my daughter, raised with care since childhood. And now I pity her predicament. Will you go ask Song Chuyen to help? Jiang Yufu merely endured a beating, and her father became so anxious that he sought help to rescue her. But what about me? After being tortured to such an extent, Lady Zhao personally visited the prince's mansion. Everyone was aware of my plight, yet no one ever considered saving me. It turned out that in my father's eyes, I truly held no significance whatsoever. Chu Yuan told me earlier that now Prince Mu fears both him and His Majesty, so he hasn't targeted the Jiang household. If he brings Sister A forward and provokes the prince's anger, Chu Yuan probably wouldn't be able to help either. Although Sister A is currently in a difficult situation, no one will lose their life. Lady, please spend more time counseling Sister A. If you can please the prince, everything will be fine. I'm fine, I'll become part of the Song household after the wedding. But I'm worried about my father. Father fell silent for a long moment, then sighed. Don't mention this matter. He chose to protect himself. The father loved his sister deeply, but not excessively. His affection for her couldn't compare to the love he had for himself. As I was about to leave, my father suddenly turned back and fixed his gaze on me. Lately I feel you're not the same as before. When did you become so shrewd and selfish? I smiled with a calm, detached air. If I weren't shrewd, I'd probably be the one beaten at the royal residence today. Father's eyes flickered a moment. Don't listen to what people say and spread rumors. I ignored his awkwardness. Perhaps, deep down, does my father know the truth? Father left in a hurry, nearly slipping as he went out. I laughed at his back. It was quite amusing. In the afternoon, I sat by the lake to enjoy the breeze, and far off I could see Zhao, pale as death. Father rebuked her and said, "A married-out daughter is like water spilled. It's her own affair of adultery that brought about today's outcome. You should go beg Buddha and chant prayers, hoping the Wang residents can spare her life. In the future, don't speak of bringing her out again. If this reaches the Wang manor, who among us can handle it?" Zhao knew in her heart that Qin Mu kept Jiang Yufu for two reasons: to squeeze money from her father, and because Jiang Yufu had bungled the affair. He kept Jiang Yufu to vent his anger. Now that her father had given up on Jiang Yufu's fate was immediately clear. Passing by the lakeside, Zhao fixed her gaze on me, the hatred in her eyes barely concealed. I smiled and met her gaze. I advise Madam to listen to father. After all, only when a person reaches the end can they become a winner. Right. Zhao sure glared at me and left. She dare not harm me. If I were injured in the slightest, my father would surely not spare her easily. Come on, let's go see father. I carried the sweets my father loved the most and headed to the study. After a few casual words, the butler came to report that Song Chu had arrived. Father hurried to greet him. "Shui Rong, aren't you going?" I lowered my head shyly, replying, "No." Father smiled twice. "My daughter is sentimental, and I understand." Song Chuyen was brought to me to discuss calligraphy and paintings with my father. Taking advantage of this gap, I successfully found what I needed in the study: the evidence that my father accepts bribes and collaborates with officials from various departments to buy and sell official positions. Now I only need a timing, an opportunity that could ruin my father's reputation. I must finish what I need to do before the wedding date. I cannot really marry Song Chuyen. So when Song Chuyen invited me to the garden where we first met, I was reluctant. What is he going to do? Reminisce about the past. Unfortunately, the only thing I can recall is that line, "You're dirty, unworthy of me." I claimed I had something to do and didn't go. I didn't expect Song Chunian to come to Jiang Mansion personally seeking me. "Shui Rong, just this once. I have something important to tell you." We sat under the old willow tree that we used to like the most. Song Chunian handed me a notebook. "This is the discourses on policy and trial. 2 years from now, this article will make me the emperor's true left and right hand." I was a bit puzzled. Why 2 years from now? Isn't it possible now? Song Chunian did not answer me at first, but instead asked back, "Shui Rong, you've changed a lot recently. But what happened to you? I remember you used to care most about your eldest sister. Why do you act as if you don't care about her now? Could it be because she cheated? I lowered my head and mumbled. She let me down and betrayed my trust. Song Chenian sighed, pulled my shoulder, and spoke softly. Xiuerong, do you trust me? I will help you take revenge. My heart trembled. What does this mean? Does he know my hatred? In the early years of the Song dynasty, he continued, I've been watching you all this time. You are still you, just more guarded and cold and different, with a visible hatred that can't be hidden in your eyes. I knew you remembered those things from before. You have lived another life with those memories as well, haven't you? I turned around in shock and looked at Song Chunyan. He has actually been reborn. But isn't the condition for rebirth that one must die first? He held my hand tightly in the early years of the Song dynasty and explained, I died a few hours after you. So when I woke again, I was trapped in the palace by His Majesty and unable to leave. I was anxious and desperate, but fortunately you were safe. In the early years of the Song dynasty, his eye sockets were a bit moist. He seemed to be in a lot of pain, but I remained rational. Since he also had memories of his past life, there was no need for me to continue acting. Lord Song, does it also require you to explain what happened that day when you drove me out of the Song mansion? In the early years of Song, he wore a look of guilt. That day, I returned to the mansion in the late hours, and after I learned of your situation, I rushed to the Wang Manor immediately. But I couldn't meet you. Later I found out that my elder brother had, without my permission, sent you a message in my name. He feared you would affect the Song family. Since then, I have not spoken to him again. I wanted to rescue you from the Wang mansion, so I went to the emperor to plead. But the emperor said your father had given consent, and he had no other way. I could only think of ways to achieve merit to gain an opportunity to bring you out. Finally, I wrote this discourse on the strategy trial, and it was promoted to Associate Grand Scholar. When I brought the gold medal given by the emperor to find you, you had already been sent out of the city. I watched you lower your head bit by bit, and my heart hurt to death, wishing I could fly over directly. But when I finally reached your side, you had already ceased to breathe. As Song Chenian spoke, tears had already fallen. Seeing him like this, I too felt a twinge of pain in my heart. I brought you to the ancestral tomb of the Song family, and we entered the coffin together while holding you. I have said before, no matter how many difficulties, life and death, I will marry you and enter the door of my Song family. It's my fault that day I did not come back early enough, did not save you. Therefore I think, at least on the road to the underworld I must walk with you. I listened to Song Chuanye's Song Chuyani tale, and at some point I had already tears streaming down my face. He actually sacrificed himself for me, so the white figure I saw in the snow was him. I suddenly understood why that day outside the Song mansion he looked so panicked when he saw me, disregarded propriety, and why he held me in public. So that's how it is. So it turns out the young man I like has never despised me. He has always believed in me. On the way home, I kept holding Song Chunye's hand tightly, feeling the warmth of his palm with all my heart. Song Chunai sensed my emotion and hugged me tightly, resting his chin on my shoulder. Shui Rong, don't be afraid. This time I won't let go of your hand. We walked like that, embracing all the way. Neither of us said a word, but I felt incredibly satisfied. I was holding the boy I adore, and he likes me just as well. Only before I can comfortably enjoy this joy do I need to deal with the eyesore. In the early years of the Song dynasty, he seemed like a parasite in my stomach, always knowing what I was thinking. He freed his hand and patted the top of my head. I've already thought of a way to bring Qin Mu down. This treatise on strategy was published 2 years earlier. The emperor praised it greatly in the court and let Song Chunyan arbitrarily select an official post. He chose the Minister of Justice. The new official's first 3 fires. The first fire scorched those long-suppressed old cases. In the past, those cases where officials shielded each other. He unearthed them one by one, submitting memorials to request investigations and judgments. The emperor heartily delighted and praised him as the reincarnated Judge Bao. With a loyal minister like you, my court will surely prosper. The words were spoken by the emperor himself. So when Song Chunyan finally listed Qin Mu's numerous crimes in a whole book, the emperor could no longer defend his younger brother. The emperor, as the law was equal for all, had no excuse to let this prince, who was usually so unscrupulous, off the hook. The officials under him watched intently as well. The final approval by the Ministry of Justice sentenced Qin Mu to 12 counts of beheading and 18 counts of exile. In the early Song dynasty, he told me these things in a calm voice. Compared to the torments you've suffered, his fate is easier. Once the execution blade falls, his crimes will be at end. I held his arm and calmed him. Before the execution, will the emperor visit the celestial prison? The emperor is of noble bearing and, of course, would not go. But I can go. Qin Mu sat in straw mat with shackles, looking at me with a smile that was still rakish. Little beauty, you can't bear to see me die, so you come to visit me, right? I ignored him, ordering people to pour ice-cold water over him directly. He tossed his wet hair and laughed. Refreshing. It's hot today, so ice water is needed to beat the heat. But after about 10 bowls of ice water were poured, he gradually lost his composure. He roared at me, "Do you know who I am? How dare you treat me like this?" No one paid attention to him as usual. After watering enough, I sprinkled salt all over him and tied his hands and feet. That night, he would be cold and itchy, but he could only endure. After leaving the dungeon, Song Chunyan had not spoken all along. After a long time, he suddenly hugged me and cried, "He used to treat you like this, right?" I bit my lip. "It's nothing to speak of." Song Chunyan cried even more bitterly. He held me and kept apologizing. "Sorry, Shiwerong. It's my fault for delaying things, making you suffer for 2 years. It's all my fault. I'm to blame." I dabbed at his tears, soothing him constantly. "It's my own carelessness that fell for Jiang Yufu's trap. It's not your fault. Really not your fault." But no matter how I tried to persuade him, Song Chunai stayed crying uncontrollably. This was the first time I realized how difficult it is when a man becomes emotional. Then I could only bring out the big move. I stood up, leaned in close to Song Chunai, and pressed my lips to his, sealing the steadily oozing gap of self-blame with my own lips. Song Chunye's ears instantly reddened, but he quickly reacted, holding me and nibbling away. "Shiwerong, you've learned to be bad, but this kind of bad can be kept." Qin Mu, until he was dragged to the execution ground, still did not believe that Song Chunyan had really toppled him. The taste of being soaked in salt water all night was not pleasant to recall either. He looked visibly haggard, with none of his former majesty or wildness. The onlookers threw eggs and rotten vegetable leaves at him. It is said that his majesty secretly approved of this, hoping to use it to admonish his ministers, even if his own brother made mistakes. They must be paraded and beheaded in this manner. But his majesty likely did not expect that there would be someone among the people who was skilled in hidden weapons. A dagger coated with poison was hurled toward Qin Mu's knee and small of the back. The soldiers tried to suppress the crowd, but could not withstand the multitude. In the end, when Qin Mu was sent to the execution ground, he was covered in blood, the wounds from the blades rotting rapidly, and the pain nearly made him lose consciousness. Qin Mu was beheaded. The household staff were banished. Female relatives were punished to serve in the Shinuku, never to transfer for life. Jiang Yufu was a singing girl at the Wangfu, not even considered a concubine, thus punished to become an official prostitute. It was said that men lined up to seek her out, wanting to see what charm this former Jiang family eldest daughter actually had that could make Qin Mu spend the night at Zhang's residence. Back then, when Jiang Yufu learned that Song Chunyan liked me, one of the reasons she was indignant was because I was from a concubine line, deemed lowly in her eyes. But now, who among them is truly the lowly one? I wonder. Jiang Yufu cried and came home with several letters, but her father refused to receive them. But she hadn't relished it for long before she was summoned to the palace. Her father's acts of buying and selling official posts and privately accepting bribes became the second spark that ignited the early Song dynasty. With Qin Mu as the opening move, the emperor showed no mercy. Her father and the Zhao family were sentenced to lifelong exile. It is said that during the exile, the two fell ill due to their ailments and ultimately died on the road. Only I, Because I am engaged to Song Chunyan, was not implicated. Song Chunyan's third spark burned his own official position. He petitioned the emperor to resign and go home. I am concerned for my wife at home and have no heart for court duties. I asked him why he resigned from office. He finally glanced at the city gate, and a kiss fell on my forehead. The capital is full of bad memories. You look sad, and I feel heartache. Let us travel far away, go sightseeing, taste tea and wine, and be a joyful immortal couple. Mo Ru cried at the city gate until she could not catch her breath. If I'd known he would take you away, I wouldn't have let you marry him. But after a few cries, she was coaxed by Song Chunyan's red-stitched spear. Thank you for taking care of Shui Rong and for staying with her through the hardest night. We got into the carriage, waved farewell to Mo Ru. The gate grew farther and finally disappeared into the sunset. I nestled in Song Chunyan's arms, planning what we would eat tomorrow morning. Beside me sat Yen Er, who was dozing, and Tsuelua. Lift the curtain, and snowflakes begin to drift down. Winter has come. Tomorrow, the stove will be lit.